Hello. I will just give it a few minutes and let people have a chance to get on. We'll just give it a couple of minutes just to see. The notifications will be going out to remind people it's 8 o'clock. Hello. If you are watching, just give me, it's weird doing this. So do a little like or give us a comment, let us know that you're listening in, so I don't feel like I'm sat here talking to myself. That'd be nice. Hello, Kirsty, hello. Can see and hear you. Brilliant, Keely, thank you. I'll just give it another moment. Thank you for joining, Andy. Hi, Liz. Hello. We is here, babe. Hi, Michelle. How are you? Hello. Oh, it's going quickly now. Lots of people are joining. Wait. A popular subject for a romantic night in. Hello. Okay. So I will, I'll get started, and it looks like more people are joining as we go, but it's 2 minutes past, and yes, I'm aware I don't want to take up, we don't want to take up all of your Valentine's Day evening. So hello, for those of you that don't know me, I am Julia McGoldrick. I chair the Tongue and Full Neck Valley Association, part of a wonderful team of volunteers. Hi. Who have been working for a long time to protect the valley from Bradford Council's plans to destroy it, as we continually say. So, as many of you are aware, on Monday, just gone, so just under a week ago, Bradford Council released their local plan for consultation. And I just want to run through a few of the key points, a few of the key things that have been going on, and then also what we are going to be doing about that. And this is a very odd way of doing this, but in lieu of us being able to hold public meetings, sorry, my phone's popping off. In lieu of us being able to hold public meetings, I thought that this would be the easiest way to get this message out. This will be recorded, it will be on the main page, you will be able to share it. I will also send it to our email distribution list for those that aren't on Facebook. So for those of you that have been involved with this or known about it for longer than others, Bradford originally put in plans to build housing in the Tongue Valley well over 10 years ago now, as part of their core strategy. And whilst this has been going on for that length of time, this new plan that we have the opportunity to object to at the moment is almost like a back to the start. So some of you objected 18 months ago when we took over 4,000 objections into Bradford Council's meeting rooms in Bradford. Some of you have objected years before that. This is basically a fresh round of objections. They have changed the plan, they have tweaked it, they're calling it something different. They're saying they're taking a different approach. So it's almost literally back to the start. So the process that we have to go through, so Bradford have put in this information for their plans, for their local plan for the whole city, including this large scale development in the Tongue Valley, which now consists of thousands of homes and a new employment site, which we've also heard is referred to as an industrial site in some other documentation, on Tongue Lane, in between Tongue Garden Centre and the Tongue Lane Farm Shop. What these plans do not refer in much detail to at all, and I'll come to that in a minute, is also that in the background of all this, on a sort of separate plan and a separate application and process, Bradford are also conducting a feasibility study for something called the Bradford South East Link Road, which is been in the pipeline for quite a while, being talked about. They've been given £1.1 million to do this study. And our biggest fear, the bigger picture that we're looking at is, and we've seen, the comments been going back and forth over the last week, that the numbers have reduced, the amount of housings that they're sort of planning for the Tong Valley have reduced since 5 years ago. But our fear is that if this road goes through, and this road, we know that the desire for this road is to cut as much of the valley up as possible, it will redefine the Greenbelt barrier. So the Greenbelt barrier still currently is where it is. Ned Lane protects that side of the Greenbelt, and the houses behind the Westgate Hill and Tong Street are the Greenbelt barrier at the moment. If a road gets built, that barrier will be moved, and that will be used as an excuse just to infill absolutely all of it, because it will no longer be Greenbelt, so it's free for all. At the moment, all of the land that all of this is proposed on, that we're objecting to, is Greenbelt. So Greenbelt is protected from development. Greenbelt's purpose is to be a lung between urban areas. Our Greenbelt in Tong Valley is quite different to other Greenbelts in a lot of ways, because it is the only lung that separates Bradford and Leeds. We know that we can, I live just on the edge of Home Lane. I can see the Bankhouse pub from my house, and you guys can see us. So, it's a couple of, not even a couple of miles. So it's a very small parcel of land. So therefore, our argument is that none of it should be encroached upon whatsoever. So, where we are, who owns it? A few different landowners, farmers, things like that. We are looking into that as well. What I'm going to do is some of our admin team and trustees, some of the admins for our Facebook group and our trustees are on the comments at the moment. So if there's anything that they can answer whilst people are commenting as I talk, they will pick that up. However, I will leave it at the end so people can ask questions. Hopefully I'll be able to answer them. I don't know. So going back to this sort of, we are back to the start. We're sort of like a game of snakes and ladders, basically. Back to square one. So this consultation is round one. We have the opportunity to object. Everybody as members of the public has the opportunity to object. Should the council then not listen to any of those objections and keep the plan as is, or they may make some amendments to it, we then move into a second round of consultation that does normally have some small tweaks in it. They may consider certain things. So, that then moves into consultation round two. After the second round of consultation, the normal process is that it then goes into the Secretary of State. If the Secretary of State thinks that it's all okay and the plan is sound, so Bradford have a duty to prove that their plan for the whole area is sound, then it gets passed to an inspector. And the inspector, we went through this process about 5 or 6 years ago with the original old plan. This is now been updated. The inspector can then hold hearings where we, the public, as well as the council and as well as house developers and people like that, have the opportunity to speak, to give evidence, to try to sway the inspector one way or the other to disprove the soundness of the plan. And that hearing is also very much about the justification of exceptional circumstances in allowing Greenbelt release. So we've got these two opportunities for consultation, then hearings. even if we get to that stage and we go to the hearings and it's still all on the cards and the inspector approves the plans, even after that, we then have the opportunity to take Bradford to the High Courts over the issue. So there are still lots of different parts and cogs and things happening before we get to the stage where any JCBs will be on our valley. But the reason that it's so important that we get our approach to this first consultation right, so it's absolutely crucial that we get our approach to this first consultation right, is that if we do not object on every ground possible at the moment and in the most legally robust way, we won't have the opportunity to object to those things at the hearings. So we need to, if any of you have actually looked at the plans on the website yet, there are sort of case numbers and different sections, and we need to sort of break down every single thing that we think that we can poke a hole in, basically. And that takes time and a lot of work, but it needs to be done in that way, because if we miss something this time that we need to rely on in court later, that we need to then bring up, if we haven't raised it on this initial consultation, we're not allowed to speak about it, and none of us will be able to stand up at the hearings and say anything about that area if we haven't covered it off in this initial consultation. So that is really crucial that we get that. In terms of timescales, how long is a piece of string? The first round took about 5 years. In their plans, Bradford are saying some of these developments they want to start building within 5 or 6 years. This consultation, the next one could be another year, 18 months. Again, it depends on how quickly that they go with it. So it's years rather than months, though, definitely. However, we have some really brilliant news in the fact that we've been incredibly lucky as an association and as the public to have recently received a very, very generous donation to start us with some formal legal counsel. So previous to now, we have only ever been reliant on the very goodwill of members of the public and our volunteers. We've been very lucky to have retired lawyers and different people involved, but not planning barristers, not people that are used to doing this day to day. So I'm really excited to announce that as of the last few days, we have now hired a formal legal team. And the team that we are using, so for the initial consultation, we're starting off with a solicitor's firm, but we've also been in consultation with the barrister as well that could support us a little bit later down the line. The solicitor's firm that we're using and the barrister that we're using are the same barrister and same solicitor that supported Airborough, so that's an area over sort of North Bradford Leeds way, that supported Airborough in their hearings and also successfully took Leeds, the Leeds Council to a High Court judgment and won. So this happened last year. So this team of legal counsel are used to dealing with these types of cases. They're used to dealing with public associations like ours, and they have very recent history of knocking these types of applications back out of the park. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I know all of our trustees are, so I'm really glad to be able to share that with you. So there are still, though, some areas where we may need your help. So just to give everybody an idea of what the plan is from here. So we have our legal team instructed, and we have received this very generous donation to help get that started. However, we will be just starting crowdfunding, hopefully in the next few days. We're just sorting out some administration to make our bank account easier. We've previously only really collected a few quid here and there from village fairs and Pudsey Carnival and selling a few mince pies at the Christmas fair. So we're just trying to streamline that banking system, and then we'll be setting up some crowdfunding, which we will be sending out and asking for donations to support this legal challenge. And I'm sure, you know, there are so many people that are objecting and upset and disturbed by these plans that we should do okay there. There are still some areas that we're going to need help with as well. So the robustness of our objection to this consultation, our solicitor is going to formulate a really robust response for us. That's going to detail absolutely everything. We've sent some initial information, some local knowledge, but we're, you know, feeling really confident and that we're doing a good job there. When the solicitor has done that and pinpointed that in this sort of, as I say, it's got to be legally robust. We can't just send submissions and say, I don't want this, I don't like this. It doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't make sense, but it needs to be legally sound. When our solicitor has done that, our plan is similar to 18 months ago. We will make a copy of that objection available to the public, so that and supporters that want to save the valley, so that you can read it, if you want to copy and paste some of it, if you want to copy and paste and add your own bits and pieces into it, your own thoughts and feelings into it as well, you'll be very welcome to. We're very hopeful that we should have that in the next couple of weeks. We have until the 23rd of March to do these objections, so within a couple of weeks we'll still have a good 2-3 weeks where we can absolutely go out to try to gain as much public support. Bradford have said again that they've updated their system to make it nice and easy and accessible to the public and easy for people to object to, but we know very well that this time, nor any time before, is that actually the case. I've been involved in this campaign for over 5 years, and I don't think I could, and with the knowledge I have now, I don't think I could sit down and figure out what I'm meant to be objecting to and where on this new system that they've put out. So we are complaining about the accessibility, the fact that it's online only, that if people need to be able to complain just on an email basis or on a paper copy. So we're just waiting to hear back about that, but we're confident that people will be able to just send an email to object rather than have to go through this overly complicated, overly engineered system that Bradford have put out to allow people to complain or to object. So that is the general plan. I'll take a breath. So in terms of our key things that we are sort of concerned about, so, and again, just to put people in the picture, because there is sort of, when we talk about house building, there is a continual kind of background message and background thought about the fact that we do need to build houses for the future, that there is a housing crisis in the UK, there won't be enough homes for everybody in X amount of years, etc. And I would, well, you can look at ONS statistics and you can use them however you want to, however you want to see the facts. Bradford will not, and still are not, using the government's own calculation system for housing need. If they used that, the housing figures would be much lower than they currently are. So the housing need in Bradford. So Bradford claims it needs to build a certain amount of homes before 2038. If they used the government's own guidelines, they wouldn't need to build as many. They're using ONS statistics that they have used their own calculations for. And one of the first points that we're going to be talking about is the fact that they actually sort of misrepresent in the first opening paragraphs of some of the documentation, where they say that that there is a need to build more houses than the government, like the opinion is that there is a need to build more houses than the government's calculations show. What they fail to mention there is that it's not a need at all. It's completely, I mean, in terms of partiality and things, it shouldn't have been included. That statement shouldn't be included in any of their documentation, because it is purely misrepresented. It's completely out of context. The need they're talking about was that when there was consultations done a couple of years ago, they said, should we use the government statistics or should we aim for higher? And about 90% of the house builders that were there at those consultations said, oh, we should aim for higher. Well, of course they do, because they're interested in profit rather than anything else. So they're sort of making it sound to the public that there is a need to build more houses than the government are telling them to. But that need is purely, I mean, as I say, it's out of context, the comment completely, because it's an opinion given by house builders. There are a few other areas as well. So there's a continuation of they talk about the viability of brownfield. So we're all very aware. I know there's people here that live not in Bradford, but in Pudsey and the Leeds border, and maybe in Kirklees and the Berkshire border and things. And everybody always says, you know, swathes of brownfield, derelict, unused sites across Bradford, etc., etc. And Bradford claim that so much of that is unviable. So they need to be able to deliver only on viable brownfield. But again, the statistics they're using for that are hugely out of date. The statistics they're using were done in 2012. You can't use 8-year-old statistics and claim that you have done everything up to date. So I don't know what the Bradford Council planners have been doing since 2012. Oh, sorry, I believe there was an update in 2014, but that wasn't an actual survey. That was done by questionnaire, and the contributors of that were again house builders. So there is like a misconception that brownfield is unviable and that it's expensive to build on, but there are more and more eco builders that are looking at brownfield and developing brownfield, where there is, yes, some remediation work to be done on the land, but the infrastructure is already there. So again, infrastructure wise, roads are one thing, but in this sort of climate emergency type situation we're in at the moment, we need to be looking at infrastructure in terms of rail and other forms of transport. So we've got the issues with statistics, and it's not like it's not a matter of opinion, really. Bradford do not need as many houses as they are claiming. Similarly, the need for the employment site, this industrial site on Tong Lane near Tong Village. So as part of the employment documents, Bradford refer to the fact that they need 72 hectares of new employment land for the growing economic centre of Bradford, which they then quickly underneath say that they might only need 50% of that. So they're going to allocate 72 hectares, but they may only need 50%. Massive difference there. And their predictions on employment, again, talking about manufacturing and things like that, this all is completely subjective. It relies on a return to pre-2019 economics. We're not taking into consideration the recent impacts of the last 12 months of a pandemic, other things. And similarly, it needs to see a return of manufacturing immediately to levels that we haven't seen before in Bradford for years. So completely unrealistic. Bradford call themselves aspirational, but I think some of these statistics and claims are delusional at best. So yeah, that might be quite harsh, but that's how I feel. My views only represent my own, however. So there is the issues with the statistics. We've got the issue with the housing numbers themselves, which is going to form a huge part of our argument. Nowhere in any of this documentation and have ever Bradford been able to justify exceptional circumstances to remove land from a green belt. And again, this will form quite a large part of our argument. We know that this sort of push and misrepresentation of statistics is just being driven by, driven by house builders' profits, but also a need for council revenue as well, which again is not justifiable exceptional circumstances. We all know that councils need funding, but this isn't the way to do that. It also continually flies in the face of this sort of claim for climate emergency that Bradford have declared. Any amount of concreting over open green land, open green belt that's meant to provide a lung is just, there is no argument for that. Similarly with building new roads in the current climate. Other issues that we've identified that we'll be doing more work on is the flooding. And many of you, thank you so much, sent in flooding pictures, flooding videos to us. Paul Mann did a video about this the other day. Flood planning, again, at best seems to have been glazed over in this local plan consultation, not really referred to. Some of the sites that Bradford are proposing, where they put it in low or minimal flood risk, or there might be, we'll have a look at that, have been underwater in the last few weeks. And whether the sites themselves have a really high risk of death, serious flooding. I think we've seen the impact on Roke Lane and the bottom of the hill out of the village in towards Pudsey, which has been devastating a couple of years in a row now. So yeah, there are lots of things that we need to look at around the flooding. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that if you have flooding downhill, if you concrete and cut down the trees higher up on that hill, the flooding will get worse. You do not need a report to be able to work that out. But we need to continue to collect data and evidence on that. We also have, and again, I'm not going to go into all in too much detail because we have got our lawyer looking into everything, but there are also impacts on the protected habitats and heritage. Some of our lovely team of volunteer trustees are working with the Woodland Trust. We're looking at trees and different things we can do there. Also English heritage. I will say, and I will mention this again towards the end, but if anything that I've been mentioning, whether it's to do with climate change, ecology, protected habitats, statistics, if you are a specialist in this area, if you have any skills that you can bring to the table, we are totally always wanting extra help. The more hands on deck, the better. So if you have any special skills in relation to any of these things or have any inside knowledge about them, we'd be very grateful. Comment below, and one of my friends on here will pick up and message you. I know a few of the trustees are on, so thank you. And then overall, I should really write a little bit better so I could read my own notes. Overall, as well, the whole viability of the plan. So Bradford's whole plan, especially for the Bradford South East, in terms of profit and driving council revenue, how viable is it to build houses in this area at the profits that they're going to need, given that, again, you do not need to be a rocket scientist to work this out. You need access to Rightmove and Google. House prices in this area are already depressed. They're lower than some of the lowest places in the country. So again, we don't quite understand. I don't know, but anyway, we'll come to that when we can sort of get a bit more data up to date on that. And again, that's something our solicitor is looking into. So the last thing, half an hour of babbling, sorry. The last thing I want to draw everyone's attention to, and it's the constant. This is sort of the elephant in the room of this plan. I think I will speak for the rest of the trustees, are really, really alarmed about the lack of reference in this consultation to the southeast Bradford Link Road. So this is the proposed road that Bradford are in the process of spending £1.1 million of council taxpayers' money in procuring a feasibility study for. So for those of you that are not aware, 18 months ago, the council requested this £1.1 million from the Combined Authority, who support transport funding like this for Leeds, Bradford, Kirklees, Wakefield, Calderdale, Yorkshire City. They were given that money. It was waved through in a matter of minutes. Myself and another colleague went to that meeting, so it was waved through, and then Bradford sat and don't know what. We can't really find any information on what they did for a year, and then they decided that they were going to need to go to a procurement stage. They were going to find a private company or somebody to carry out this feasibility study work for them. The procurement stage, so the request for that procurement stage, went to the council's own scrutiny committee in July, was it? And the scrutiny it was put to the scrutiny committee should this procurement stage be approved. Again, a number of people, including myself, spoke at that meeting, and I put it to the council that there was a third option, and that the third option that they had was to just return the money to the Combined Authority and stop wasting taxpayers' money on these ridiculous plans. However, the councillors on that meeting, they rejected, so they voted against the procurement stage being to proceed. But since then, unfortunately, and rather surprisingly, and you might have seen us talk about this on the page, but rather than take heed of that vote and go back and assess things, Bradford Council executive and planners have chosen to completely ignore that vote, almost, I would say, pretending that it didn't happen. They are claiming that it was only an advisory vote, and they didn't need to pay attention to it, and they are pressing on regardless, which, again, it may not be illegal for them to go against a vote, but it's certainly not great form, and then to not provide an explanation of that. So we're in the process as well of formulating a formal complaint about that process. But this proposed road, that they are very, very keen to get off the ground, the plan off the ground with, going against their own scrutiny committee vote in that way, just shows how keen they are to ignore any other advice or ignore anybody else's opinion on the matter. Shows how keen they are and determined they are to press through with this. But the vagueness about this road in this consultation, so many of you will have seen the map with the two routes, the potential routes for the road and things like that. In this plan, the road is referred, an access road is referred to very, very briefly, and it's with like a little arrow, which again, the vagueness about the road in these plans leads me to fear that they are deliberately trying to mislead the public by not clearly representing the plans for the road. Surely, in a plan so big and so up to date as well, this plan is their most up to date plan. This road needs to be very, very clearly represented. So yes, very concerned about the motives and the reasoning why the road is not clearly marked on any of these plans. They keep saying there isn't a route down yet, but we know that they've drawn two lines in the sand already, and to just not reference or barely reference it at all is just not just not on. So again, we need to pick up on why that is, but in the vagueness is suspicious. Yes, you are correct. But again, just not being clear, just giving you no clarity, it just does not sit right at all with us in any way, and we will draw attention to that. It's just another example of Bradford being economical with the facts and representing their opinion as the truth and the only way, and that is just not acceptable, and we, the public, will not stand for it. So yeah, we need to come together. We need to make sure that our voices are heard. Another one of the other areas that we will be mentioning is the fact that they continue to say the public's voices will be heard. 4,000 people objected last time, and there still seems to be this insistence that on this sort of complete, again, maybe it's head in the sand pretending that they can make that go away, but we now have formal legal representation and we're going to do this. We will see this off. So yeah, let's do it. So just to recap quickly, in the next couple of weeks we will have a formal objection. It will be detailed. It may be more detailed than you wish to submit yourself. We might be able to produce a short form breakdown of that, but it just means that you as a member of the public would be able to copy, paste it if you want to add your own bits